Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever been in a conversation and just wondered, are they really into this conversation or into me? Well, long before a single word is spoken, their eyes might have already given you the answer. Today, we're going to decode those silent, super powerful signals of attraction that are hiding right in plain sight.
So think about the last chat you had. You were probably focused on the words, right? But here's the thing, that's only part of the story. A massive 60%, over half of our communication is actually nonverbal. That means most of what we're really saying comes from our body language, and you guessed it, especially from our eyes. That's where the real story often gets told.
And that leads to a really big question, doesn't it? If so much is being communicated without any words at all, how much are we missing out on? It's these subtle signals, when we misinterpret them, that can lead to missed connections. But don't you worry. By the end of this explainer, you'll know exactly what to look for.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why the eyes are so incredibly expressive. Then we'll dive into two key signals of attraction: the deep gaze, and another one that's basically impossible to fake. After that, we'll cover how to read these signs the right way so you can walk away with some clear, practical knowledge.
All right, let's jump right in. While our whole body communicates in different ways, our eyes, well, they're the main stage. They are, without a doubt, the most expressive feature we have, broadcasting what's going on in our internal world, our thoughts, our feelings, often before we even realize it ourselves.
You've heard this saying a million times, right? The windows to the soul. It's become a classic for a reason because it's so true. Our eyes are like a direct channel to our inner world, sending out critical information about our emotions and our intentions, especially when it comes to attraction.
Okay, so let's get to our first major signal. This one is probably one of the clearest you can get: the gaze of deep interest. This is that moment when just a casual glance transforms into something much more focused, much more sincere, and it signals that a genuine connection is formed.
So what does this actually look like? It's not just, looking at someone. It's a steady, warm gaze that's basically saying, I am fully present with you. I see you, and I am genuinely interested in what you have to say. It's a nonverbal way of showing you're completely engaged. Picture this for a second. You're sharing something personal. Maybe something you're a little vulnerable about. And the person you're with, they hold your gaze the entire time. They don't look away, they're not distracted, their eyes are just warm and focused entirely on you. You know that feeling of being truly seen and heard? That is the power of this signal. It's an undeniable sign of deep interest. But, and this is really important, there's a huge difference between gazing and staring. A loving gaze is warm. It feels comfortable and welcoming. A stare, on the other hand, is impersonal. It lacks that emotional connection and can even feel a bit confrontational. One builds a bridge, while the other puts up a wall.
So what's the sweet spot? Well, research suggests that making eye contact about 60 to 70% of the time is pretty much ideal for building that feeling of connection. It shows you're engaged and you're interested without ever crossing that line into an uncomfortable stare.
Now for our second cue. And this one is so powerful because it's completely involuntary. It's a physiological response that you can't control, which makes it an honest, unfiltered signal of attraction that is absolutely impossible to fake. We're talking about pupil dilation. That's just the widening of the black center of the eye. When we look at someone we find attractive, our brain releases a rush of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, and that causes our pupils to expand without us even thinking about it. It's a primitive response, almost like our brain is trying to let in more light to get a better look at something it finds desirable.
And that's exactly why this cue is so reliable. I mean, think about it. You can fake a smile. You can pretend to be interested in a conversation. But you absolutely cannot fake your pupils dilating. It is an unconscious, unfiltered tell that comes straight from your brain's reward center. Now, this one can be a little subtle, especially if someone has dark eyes or you're not up close. But if you are close enough and you happen to notice that subtle shift, that tiny widening of their pupils when they look at you, you can be pretty confident it's a genuine, powerful sign of their interest.
All right, so now we have our signals, the loving gaze and pupil dilation. But knowing what they are is really only half the battle. To avoid making mistakes, you have to read them correctly. And luckily, there are 3 simple rules for that.
First, context is everything.
A long gaze on a date? That's a fantastic sign. The same gaze on a deserted street? Totally different story. And this applies to pupil dilation too. Remember, pupils also get bigger in low light, so don't mistake a dim room for desire. The situation defines the meaning. Second, look for congruence. Do their warm eyes match their warm words and their relaxed body language? If someone says, "I'm so happy for you," but they have a cold stare, trust the eyes, not the words. When all the signals line up, the message is authentic. And finally, you have to establish a baseline. Is this person normally really shy and avoids eye contact with everyone? Or are they usually very direct? Knowing their typical behavior helps you spot when something changes, specifically with you.
So, let's wrap this all up with the main takeaway. We've been decoding a silent language that is constantly being spoken all around us. Learning to pay attention to it doesn't just make you a better observer. It helps you understand the true feelings that are hiding behind the words. Just remember these two key signals. First, there's that conscious signal, the prolonged, focused gaze that says, "I'm with you." And then there's the unconscious signal, that impossible-to-fake pupil dilation that reveals genuine attraction. And remember to filter both of those through the lens of context and congruence to really understand the complete message.
When you learn to read this unspoken language, you really give yourself the power to build more authentic, deeper relationships. You can start to hear what's being communicated long before any words are even spoken. So we'll leave you with this question. How will you use this understanding to deepen your connections? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And hey, if you found this explainer helpful, please give it a like and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks so much for watching.